What super embarrassing thing did someone else do that you'll never forget? All the kids in my 5th grade class were passing out Valentine's cards during our party. When I finished, I went back to my desk and found a huge Hallmark style envelope on my desk. Too big to fit in the box I had decorated. Confused, I opened it and found a real Valentine's card with a declaration of love from a classmate named Vinny. My teacher saw me reading it, grabbed it and cheekily read it out loud to the class. I was mortified. I didn't think for a moment she would be cruel enough. But then she said who it was from and my heart sank. Vinny hid his head in his arms at his desk, began to cry and shake, then ran off to the bathroom. I have never seen a more embarrassing moment and I hated my teacher for the rest of the year. I still do. In fact, I'm so sorry, Vinny. SFO Airport. A man is running down the escalator and trips at the very end, face planting with so much force that he slides a little. Guy gets up and keeps running, trips and falls on his face again, then gets up and just walks. I work near a college campus. The day Pokemon came out, all hell broke loose. Saw a guy who was playing the app walk directly into a pole that was just a bit taller than his junk because he wasn't looking up from his phone. Nuts were smashed. I camped out near that pole every day at lunch to watch people playing Pokemon wander into it. Day 3. Here comes the guy from day 1. Right into the same pole. Nuts smashed again. My best friend from high school farted during quiet reading time in English class. It must have been loud because the popular girls surrounding her looked up in disgust. In a panic, my friend grabbed her seat and with forced bewilderment said, "Oh my chair is so squeaky." She then proceeds to rock and shift positions frantically, but the chair doesn't make a sound. Clearly defeated, my friend spent the rest of class burning in self-loathing. Every Redditor that has told themselves no one will remember is experiencing intense anxiety right now. My brother was in a HR course and they were doing presentations on different issues in the workplace. One group ended their presentation by showing a clip they found online on sexual harassment in the workplace. For some reason they never bothered to watch the full video because halfway through it turned into a porno and the entire class was cringing, trying not to burst out laughing. A guy in the class in HS stood up to go to the washroom, sneezed and sheet his pants. A kid sheet his pants in grade school art class. It fell down his leg when he stood up. And he said a duck walked into the room and pooped on the floor. A girl in my design class got up to give her presentation. Her computer is hooked to the projector and it's on. She opens her email to find the presentation she sent herself, and as soon as the email is opened someone in class says, "Common name. Why do you have an email titled Turtle 6 Noises?" Her head whips around to the screen and she shouts, "Oh my god." And then she jumps in front of the screen as she forgets how projectors work. So Turtle 6 Noises is now projected on her bobs and she stammers to quickly tell us that her boyfriend sent her the link. The video is adorable. And so on. She goes on to do the presentation, but the class won't shut up about the turtles, so she plays the video and hides her face as this turtle makes adorable squeaky sounds as it makes love to a shoe, and the class just loses it. With my old aunt on the bus once. She's a bit deaf, so she tends to speak louder than necessary. She leans over to me and in a hushed but very audible voice that everyone heard says to me, "OMG. Look at that woman's ugly baby. No, look. It's so ugly. Oh my god." Nudges at me hard. "Look at it." Yeah. The woman with the baby was sitting right next to us across the aisle within earshot. Cringe. In the Navy you have to run a PRT every 6 months. If you fail any portion you get a PRT failure on your record. If you get 3 in a row you get kicked out of the Navy. I tell you that to tell you this. I knew a guy in my command who was looking at getting kicked out for PRT failure. He absolutely had to pass his PRT or he would lose his job, livelihood and realistically his wife and kids. Part of the PRT is a 1.5 mile run he had to do in under 11 minutes. Everyone runs together and we all start at the same time. So they say go, everyone starts running, clock starts. About 5 minutes and I look over and this guy is speed walking, awkward as hell. It was very obvious and very distracting. I am coming up behind him, I lapped him on the track, and he relaxes and cheats himself. No joke, fills his navy issue PT shorts and keeps running. He is running with a full load in his pants swinging behind him and running down his leg, leaving a sheet trail on the track behind him. Note, this is official, he cannot fail. If he quits it counts as a fail, so he grits his teeth and keeps running. I can't help but laugh as I'm running my PRT. He looks miserable but he is still running as fast as he can with sheet just pouring out of his shorts. I was embarrassed just watching this happen, but his very existence on Earth was to be determined by this run, and nothing short or the apocalypse was going to stop him from finishing. He ended up coming in 10 seconds under his time, so he got to staying, but the fact that half the command had watched this guy sheet his pants then run spewing sheet behind him for 6 minutes was brutal. People talked for years about that incident. Freshman year of college. 5 weeks and I had a group project. My group decided to write a script and read it to the class. All 4 of us are up there reading and semi-acting out this 10-page script, and everyone in class starts kind of giggling. In between lines I make eye contact with this girl I was kinda seeing and she kept laughing towards me. I thought maybe a booger was hanging from my nose. Zipper was undone, but nope. Ended up that the kid next to me had a boner and did the little tuck-in waistband trick. The head of his big dig was sticking out and he was wearing a small shirt, so anytime he lifted his arms or moved around everyone saw the tip of his big dig. Everyone joked about it when he wouldn't show up to class. A guy was trying to sleep with my friend. He didn't have a condom, so he went and got a Ziploc bag. She said no. I walked into a bathroom once while some lady in another stall was in the middle of a major poop explosion. As if that wasn't bad enough, she started praising Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Splat splat. Thank you. Thank you. I was in a Disneyland bathroom stall. The man in the adjacent stall was in the midst of a serious poop struggle. While the ambient hum of the bathroom may have drowned out the plop, it did not silence his exclamation. Jesus Christ. That thing is huge. This was already loud enough to be uncomfortable for everyone. Then, a second voice. Wow. Dad. When I was in elementary school in 2nd grade, we had a really cruel and strict teacher. She refused to let the red-haired fat girl go to the bathroom during morning prayer. Private school. She peed her pants in front of the entire class first thing in the morning. I don't recall any classmates ever giving her shit about it, but I'm pretty sure no one ever forgot it. When I was kindergarten, my class started singing the alphabet letters. A boy sitting next to me was shitting himself while singing. He became my best friend. We are now 20 years old and I still remember that day. I was in the 8th grade, walking and talking with a girl who had a crush on me. She was really going all out trying to impress me, swishing her hips, cracking awful jokes, trying to be smart. When we walked by a building entrance with a raised slab in front of the door, she failed to notice it and, with her hands in her pockets, tripped up and pulled off an amazing faceplant. God. She was so embarrassed her whole face was red. To my credit, I didn't laugh and helped her up, but inside I was crying with laughter. In high school, a girl I knew had a crush on me. I wasn't into her and had a girlfriend in a different school, but I was always nice to her. One day as she was taking her seat directly in front of me, she ripped an embarrassingly loud fart. People laughed, but I acted like I didn't hear it. Poor girl. I haven't seen her in probably 13 years, but I'll never forget how deep the shade of red her face turned. I was in 11th grade and my buddy was in 9th. I brought him to a party with me. He got obnoxiously drunk on vodka. There were these 2 12th grade girls that I really wanted to talk up. He came with me. We are standing in front of them and they were sitting in chairs, so they were our level with our crotches. Our game is surprisingly working and he is holding it together. Or so I thought. One of the girls exclaims, "Oh my god. He is pissing." I look over and he is peeing his pants as we chat up these senior girls that are our level with our junk. I was at a water park in the wave pool and a girl had a bob knocked out of her bikini and didn't notice. A lifeguard blew his whistle, pointed, and said your breast. So I of course looked and saw it. She simply said thank you and covered it back up, but I'll never forget that big tit just hanging and feeling bad for her. We all went out on the town with our boss after a convention. Walking back to the parking lot, a car picks up a pay ticket at the entrance and pulls in. We follow the car in on foot. My boss walks past the ticket machine just as the barricade arm swings down, smashing his face and destroying his glasses. We all get in the car, and as he drives you can hear everyone trying their damnedest to not laugh. He whips around and screams in a pathetic tone, "Stop ducking laughing at me." Then 10 minutes later, he mispays a toll booth, and another gate arm comes down. It wrecks the left fender, mirror, and pillar of his truck, as well as snaps off the arm. One of my co-workers grabbed the arm as a souvenir. College dorms, me and my 2 friends were getting ready for the night ahead, putting on makeup in the full-length mirror on the wall. Kneeling on the floor, a song comes on that makes friend number 1 start dancing. In a fit of dancing passion, friend number 1 runs up to friend number 2 kneeling in front of the mirror and humps the back of her head. This action smashes friend number 2's face into the mirror, knocking out her 2 front teeth. We don't talk about that night. They are both too emotionally damaged to think about it. I think it's fucking hilarious, but I won't ever tell them that. Long time ago my friend, around his early 20s at the time, was dating his sister's best friend. She ended up breaking up with him. A few of my friends brought him over to my parents' place to cheer him up. My friend, who isn't very emotional at all, got wasted, proceeded to cry and bawl and chug hard liquor. He then threw up in every room of my house while my family watched and thought he was dying. To this day they still bring it up to me asking if he is okay. It was 10+ years ago. Guy that lived in the dorms at the university I went to was standing in our doorway talking to my roommate. A very pretty girl, married to an MLB player now, that lived in the building tapped him on the shoulder because she wanted to get by and come into our room. When the guy turned around he must have thought that she was raising her arms up to hug him because he wrapped his arms around her immediately, very enthusiastically hugging her while saying oh hi and still after it passed the normal amount of time to hug someone he continued clutching her and started making a sort of groaning or humming sound like he was really enjoying it. Ugh, god, the horror. She had this fixed wide-eyed gaze right around him while this was going on, and wow, the shock. WTF are you seeing this look on her face and her arms by her side while this man hunched over to grab her is something I will never forget. Finally he let go of her. She practically ran into our room and he walked away looking a little confused, like he was slowly putting it together that he had made a mistake. He's a dentist now, so probably doing alright and doesn't remember. But duck, I cringe just thinking about that. When I was in kindergarten, a girl in my class told me she was pregnant and I was the father. I remember thinking I'm 5. I don't need this. My senior year of high school, a very beautiful girl was about to give a presentation in front of the class. Right before she started she takes off her hoodie and her shirt gets pulled up with it. She wasn't wearing a bra. A joker in the back of the classroom instantly hollers, "Dem titties. Lord, I miss my youth." My friend farted herself awake in my high school civics class only to pretend it wasn't her. I have one for this. Don't tell him. But I remember. I have a friend. Let's call him Jeremy. We've been friends for a really long time, since preschool. And suffice to say, we've both done some pretty cringy things. The one that stands out the most, however, is Sue. Sue was his imaginary girlfriend. He has a bunch of family in Florida, and they go down there a lot over breaks in the summer and stuff. One time, I guess he thought it would impress us if he told us about his, for 6th grade, sexual escapades. Stories about Jeremy's first kiss on a night with a full moon, hanging their feet over the edge of the dock onto a still-lit lake, etc. He would set a timer on his phone when we hung out. And when it went off he would pretend that it was Sue calling him. He kept up this charade for years. And he's lucky we don't give him shit about it. 2. Edit. We found out she was fake when he eventually told our group of friends. He told different people at different times. Years apart. For some reason. But it didn't take long for us to realize. She wasn't all fake actually. As a surprise. Sue was the name of one of his cousins in Florida. And I guess he decided to make her the focus of his strange fantasy. I was at a stoplight downtown. And a group of one of those Segway tours was crossing in front of me. A guy near the end of the line of Segwayers tries to spin around and chat with someone behind him. Or something. And just goes down like a sack of bricks. Now I don't know how those things work. But I still assume it was a mechanical failure or some shit. Because this guy is now flat on his ass in the middle of downtown Seattle. Just wrestling with this Segway. He's all tangled up in it and cursing. Flopping around. And everyone's just standing there. Completely clueless on how to even begin to unlatch this red-faced dude from his Segway. It goes on like this for almost a full minute. The light is green but I can't go because he's right in front of me. Finally he gets up and hops back on. And rides away. I nearly had to pull over, I was laughing so hard on my way home. Posted this once in another thread. A kid in my school was put in a group project for a productions class. He was very weird. Odd. Awkward. Anyhow. Long story short. He took a camera home to review footage. The next day it was time to review the project in front of the class. Evidently. He had filmed himself masturbating. But hadn't quite erased all the film by taping over it. Apparently. The class caught just a couple frames of him jerking off right at the end of the film. The class was in hour 7. So he immediately ran out of class and onto the bus. Before the bus could leave, he was approached by a group of administrative staff. He ended up having a panic attack on the bus. Kicking. Screaming. Flailing. Anyhow he works at a gas station now. Good luck to you, Andrew. A few years ago, I was at the San Diego Zoo with my family. We were walking near the reptile area when we saw a big group gathered around something. A peacock. A single peacock that wasn't a part of the zoo. But had just wandered in. Everyone was taking pictures of the damn thing like it was the most precious thing in the world. Well. One kid kept ducking with the thing. Grabbing its feathers and whatnot. Mom was on her phone playing it off. Peacock said duck it and nailed that kid right in the forehead. Kid was bleeding everywhere. Mom was playing it off like it was a minor scratch. Granted. Kid got carmied like I'm a third-acker. In middle school I had a friend who was a walking disaster. I could write a novel with all the embarrassing things that have happened to her. For the sake of anonymity I'll only tell one. She wore a knee-length skirt to school one day. One of those that has a little slit on each side. The slits weren't very long. Maybe a little over an inch on either side. Well, throughout the day this girl somehow managed to slowly rip both sides all the way up the entire length of the skirt. She was essentially just wearing a flap of fabric over her front and back by the end of the day. It just so happened to be very windy while we waited for the bus outside. I'll never forget her face as she stood there clutching both flaps of fabric to her body as best she could. Luckily she was one who was able to laugh at her own misfortunes. We both got a good laugh at that one. Some girl pooped in the hallway at school. Like. On accident. She was wearing a skirt and apparently could not make it. A rumor was started about her. Saying that she was born without a butthole. The doctors had to create a butthole for her so she could drop gongs. That made it hard for her to control her functions. Nobody ever figured out if it was true or not to my knowledge. When that picture of the dress was going around the internet, remember Blow vs Gold? My friend clicked on a video about it on her Facebook feed in the middle of lecture. For some reason the entire video was background noise of a porno and her phone was on full blast. So suddenly we all heard RR off ooh in the middle of the lecture. Both my friend and our prof turned red and everyone else died laughing. My best friend growing up asked this girl he liked 4 years to homecoming in 9th or 10th grade. She asked him if he knew any sweet dance moves and he said yeah I know how to break dance, to which she replied show me. And she began moving furniture for him. He didn't know how to break dance, but tried. Her and her friend laughed. Then we left. It was bad.